Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Good, good. Glad to see you all here. My name is Dr. Kalpani. I'm the director of the Africana Institute and professor of sociology here at Essex County College. And on behalf of the president and the staff and faculty, I'm excited to welcome you all here to our annual Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah lecture series. This is a lecture that we do annually to pay tribute to the works of Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey. So the two of them were some of the greatest Pan-Africanists that we know in our collective consciousness. Marcus Garvey was the founder of the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and Marcus Garvey gave us a great foundation on which to build African organizations that people of African descent work at and towards. Can I have your attention, please?
Please.
Gave us a great foundation on which to build, looking at where people of African descent came from and the struggles that they made to get where they're going, where we are today. So Marcus Garvey, his organization was really the largest organization, grassroots organization, even to this day. Marcus Garvey was someone who never traveled to Africa, but his organization was about going back to Africa. His organization still exists today, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. In fact, it's interesting because a lot of times what we see in organizations that are grassroots organizations that survive this long, that sometimes you have splinters. And so even in that organization, we have two chapters that have competing ideas about their foundation and where they're headed. But those are things that we have the types of dialogues we have to have in the community to work out where we're going and how we're going to transform those experiences. And so in the Garvey organization today, they continue that legacy of trying to navigate the space forward. Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Ghana, and in 1957, Ghana got its independence from Great Britain, and so then this ushered in an idea of Pan-Africanism, and that the idea of Pan-Africanism that Garvey and Nkrumah in particular built on was really this long legacy that started in the 1900s. So that the start of the foundation really began with Henry Sylvester Williams, who was a barrister from Trinidad. And Williams, what he did was he had the foundation of it, starting the Pan-Africanist Conference, and that was held in London. And so then at that time, they invited a lot of different folks to come and speak to talk about how we deal with this Pan-Africanist idea. And so then there were 5 other subsequent ones that were mostly organized by Du Bois and other folks. And so those Pan-Africanist congresses, the primary push behind them was to talk about how people from the African experience, those from the African diaspora, how they can unite. What are the things they need to do? What are the political moves they need to make? What are the ideas that they need to do to transform the way they think to something that creates a different space? And so these organizations that came, most of them in the early Pan-Africanist congresses were heads of states from different African countries. And then you had a group of folks who came from the African diaspora, from the islands and from the Americas. And so then those folks who came and participated in the early Pan-Africanist congresses, they began to develop some ideas about how the momentum and how we should think about transforming the reality of the oppression that people of African descent experience. And so when they did that, their objective was to begin to galvanize the power that they believed they had in a wide diversity of spaces. And so we have this lecture series as a way to continue the dialogue about Pan-Africanism, to continue the dialogue about the struggles of people of African descent to have self-determination, to create a reality that is their own, and that they then have the voice and the authority to say how they want to be experienced, how they want to be received by the world, and in addition to that, how they want to carry themselves forward, how they want to transform the world in which they live. And so then that's the foundation that you had on that. There were lots of different Pan-Africanist organizations that came either before or after Nkrumah. So you had in South Africa, you had the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. You had part of what Nkrumah was engaged in was this Pan-Africanist dialogue that emerged in different places in Africa with Azikwe, with Jomo Kenyatta, with all the different independence leaders who were fighting for independence from colonialism at the time. And so then these struggles for independence were a key point in terms of moving forward the dialogue about independence. And so Pan-Africanism became an important idea about that transformation. And so then at the foundation of that, you had people like Nkrumah working with other folks in the area to bring about that. Nkrumah said that independence anywhere that independence in Ghana was not secure if you didn't have independence everywhere. Okay, thank you. And so then when we think about it in that context, that gives us the way for us to think about how we transform the reality of what happened in terms of the whole Pan-African idea. That Nkrumah set the foundation for us to see Pan-Africanism as a viable tool, but not everybody agreed with Nkrumah. You see, Nkrumah came with the idea that he wanted not just Ghana to be independent, but he wanted all of Africa to be independent. And that the foundation of the lack of independence in Ghana meant that there was a lack of independence in anywhere else in Africa meant that Ghana itself wasn't even independent. So Nkrumah wanted us to understand that we have to have this collective unity. And so emerging out of all these struggles, you came up with several other things. One was that you had the independence of Africa that followed Ghana, but then also you had this whole group of folks who believed that this idea was important, and they created an organization called the Organization of African Unity. And that emerged to yet another organization that exists today called the AU, the African Union. And so these organizations emerged to create a different idea about Pan-Africanism and the unification of Africa. And so that today that the African Union operates as heads of states from all the different places around the world, all the different countries of Africa, but they're also working on building another component called the Sixth Region. And so they're incorporating all of the folks in the diaspora, the African diaspora, and wanting them to be involved in the discussion, wanting them to be involved in what the next stages are about African independence. So that's some of what we're trying to get you to understand in having this discussion, having this celebration. And one of the things that we're going to be doing annually from here on is that I have a student who unfortunately is not able to be here today, but we're going to honor a student every year for their volunteerism, for their commitment to Africana studies, for their commitment to the ideas of Nkrumah and Garvey. And so this year we have Michelle, who is going to get a scholarship for volunteerism, and we'll talk more about her and celebrating her participation in the Pan-Africanist idea later on. But what I want to do is I don't want to talk anymore because the man of the hour is here, and we want to bring him to the stage and have him to share with you the greatness of our experience and all the ways that he's able to do that. So today, as I said, this is the Garvey and Nkrumah lecture series, and we are honored to have here today one of the true sons of Africa, someone who has traveled to Africa many, many times, who has been an entrepreneur in Africa, has a hotel that he started in Africa, in Ghana, has taught and fought the fight for Africana studies, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Leonard Kwaku Jeffries. Let's give him a round of applause. As I bring him to the stage, he's someone who got his bachelor's at Lafayette College in 1960. He got his master's at Columbia and his PhD at Columbia University in 1971. He majored in government and law and international relations and African studies. Africana studies didn't even exist at that time, so Africana studies is something that's new. And then political science and African studies was his other major in his PhD. He's received many awards: the Carnegie Foundation, from the African Heritage Foundation, from the African Study for Classical African Civilizations, the National Secretary for the Alex Haley Library. So Dr. Jeffries is someone, when folks call someone to speak or to understand our African experiences, that Dr. Jeffries is someone who's called. He is currently the president, the international president of WADU, which is the World African Diaspora Union. And I want to let you know that if you want to learn something great, I suggest you put down your your phones and your computers, and make sure you listen up to what Dr. Jeffries has to offer, and be sure that you're going to leave here transformed. And with that said, I give you Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Let's give him a round. And he always has great things to show you, artifacts and everything else. So we'll give him 2 seconds to finish pulling that stuff out. While he's doing that, let me just say to you that I want to thank all the faculty who brought their classes here. Let's give your faculty a round of applause. Thank you for their classes.
Hotep, Hotep.
Hotep.
Good morning, good afternoon, family. Let's give Dr. Kalfani an acknowledgement. Certainly in Newark, Essex County College in New Jersey, and I'll stretch him out across the country. He is one of the leaders who are stepping forth and carrying on the legacy of Marcus Garvey and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So it is a pleasure always for me to come home to participate in these activities. I do have the degrees from Columbia, master's, PhD, a degree from Lafayette College, studied in Europe, not in English, but in French. Je parle très bien le français, presque comme le français. On a fait mes études de doctorat d'été de la langue française. I did work with Alex Haley and had a $500,000 grant to support him in the work that he did with Roots and Even the Film. And by my side have been some of the greatest African scholars, male and female, that you would want to know. But the most important thing about me is not all of that, not the notoriety. If you go on the internet, put in my name, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, there's 1 million hits, and most of it is negative. I'm the worst person in the history of the world, the new Hitler, because I'm dealing with this African truth. But the most important thing that you need to know about me is that I was born and raised right here in Newark, New Jersey. I was born on Central Avenue, on 110th Street. Lived the first 10 years of my life on 14th Street in the Roosevelt community. Those 10 years were my formative years. That's when the foundation was laid. At that point, Newark was organized in what I call villages. 14th Street neighborhood was a village. My mother and father, my brother and I lived on 14th Street. My mother's family lived on 13th Street. My father's family lived on 12th Street. You couldn't go anywhere without family. Family that wasn't blood, as well as family that was just community family. And that's the strength that I put on the table in terms of who and what I am. That the formation was made in these villages in Newark. I went to Roosevelt Avenue School and Sussex Avenue School. Graduated Sussex Avenue School in 1951. I was president of Sussex Avenue School. That was leadership training for me. And at that time, I also went into the NAACP. Miss Grace Baxter Fenderson was the head of the NAACP youth. She instilled seriousness in the young people. She was not only training myself, but others like Jewel Kervin, Bob Kervin, and the same thing was happening in the Orange Maplewood NAACP branch with Madeline Williams training the Payne brothers and a whole host of others. Newark is what has made me. Not the degrees at Columbia, not studying in Europe, not working with some of the greatest men. The foundation was laid in the home, and it was started with my mother. She conceived greatness for her youngsters. A small, diminutive, wonderful woman who graduated Robert Street and then went on to Central High and found a big, tall African-American, 6'5", who eventually played on the Negro Leagues, and she straightened him up and told him what he needed to do in terms of raising these young boys. She met him when he was at Westside High School. Part of that connection is with the Barakas. Amiri Baraka went to Barrington High School, that's where I went. That's where I met him. In Barrington High School at the same time when Amiri was there, Leroy Jones at the time, were the Payne brothers. Bill, the elder, and Donald, the congressman, the younger. Also were the Peoples, Cesar Peoples, and Arnold Peoples, the Jacksons, the Jeffries. So what I want to say to you, I'll be traveling the world, but it started here in Newark. Of the 100 young people I grew up with on 14th Street community, 90 of us made it big, including one who's special at this college. This picture, in fact, is in the hallway and the entranceway to the Mary Birch Hall. And that is Dr. Robert Spellman. Dr. Robert Spellman lived across the street from me, 14th Street. My mother and father stood with his mother and father as witnesses when they got married. Mary Birch and her husband moved down the street to start their great pilgrimage in Newark. Mary Birch and her husband got started on 14th Street, down the street from my home, down the street from the Spellmans. So what I'm trying to say is I'm a homeboy. But it is Dr. J legitimately. It is someone who's met Dr. Nkrumah, who's met the President of Ghana, who's met Ahmed Sekou Toure, the President of Guinea, who's met Robert Mugabe, who's met His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, who's met some of the great scholars that come out of Africa and the Caribbean, including Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. If we're going to celebrate any of our history, you have to know who Dr. Diop is. And that's spelled Sheikh, C-H-E-I-K-H, Anta, A-N-T-A, family name Diop, D-I-O-P. And in fact, Sheikh Anta Diop is so important that I describe his book as the Bible of our history and world history. Now this is the blue book that you have to have by your side if you're going to be successful in understanding the history of the world. I just didn't say African history, I said the history of the world. This is his great monumental work entitled Civilization or Barbarism. Check out the Diop. An authentic anthropology. But this brother was a scientist, he was a linguist. Most important, he was a Pan-Africanist. He was a nation builder. And he symbolizes the success and the victory of the legacy of Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and the vision and the work of Dr. Nkrumah. So this youngster from Newark, New Jersey, graduate of Garvey High School, used to play tenor sax solo in the Blue Jackets, played on the baseball team with my brother, Jeff. He's going to take you on a great odyssey of our history. And this is not going to be a final process. This is a beginning process. So in our tradition, if you're going to begin anything important in the African tradition, you have a ritual of celebration and dedication, rededication. So if you can stand, all of you, so we can have what we call the libation. Under normal circumstances, a Jeffries libation might be anywhere between 5 and 10 or 15 minutes. We don't have that time today. But we do want to pay respect for our ancestors. You are here because of bridges that brought you across, and that's your mother and your father, their mothers and fathers, their mothers and fathers, their mothers and fathers. So you are the ancestors. But I say, I don't know anything about my ancestors. You don't have to know. It's in your blood. Your grandmother, your grandfather. It's in your blood. And so when we're talking about the history of the human family, you have to understand that you are part of the founding mothers and fathers of humanity. You don't take a step back from that knowledge of what it means. Now, in the African tradition, when we do have the libation, in many instances, water is poured to the ground. Water is life, the ground is life. And when we do raise up a great name or a figure in our history, you acknowledge it. The acknowledgement can be by saying Yah in the Akan tradition of Ghana, or Ashe in the Yoruba tradition of Nigeria, or Hotep in the Nile Valley African tradition, or any other language of African peoples that you understand. But let's not just stand here like Negroes and Latinos from North New Jersey without nothing to say. In the wake of human history, we ask those Africans who began the march of humankind to be with us, to strengthen us, and allow us to be manifestations of this greatness. Dr. Calfani, you don't have a little something?
Yeah, I'm getting the plant now.
We don't want to mess up these beautiful floors here in the hall. And you are blessed to have a wonderful institution. Physically, this institution is one of the best of its kind in terms of, yes, that's correct. Physically, this institution is a growing, beautiful institution that was fought for by our community so that they built it in Newark and not in the suburbs, which was the design of many. So you need to be proud of the institution. And it sits comfortably with its neighbors, NJIT and Rutgers and the University Medical School. You are in a university complex, one of the most significant in urban America. So you need to, don't feel bad that you're not up there at Harvard or Yale or out there in Princeton. You have an institution that can serve you well. You need to take advantage of it. In the name of the Africans who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask those Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of those Africans who began the march of humankind back in the millennia of millions of years ago, we ask those Africans who found a special sacred spot in the river valleys of the world and laid the foundation for civilization and culture in the Nile River Valley, the Niger River Valley, the Limpopo, in the valleys of the Tigris Euphrates, in the Indus Valley, in the valleys of China. We ask those Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of those Africans who became the first modern humankind 200,000 years ago and found that blessed ecology in the Nile and other river valleys 15 or 20,000 years ago. We ask those Africans who built the pyramids and the temples to their God consciousness, the Khufu, Khafra, and Nkrumah of the Giza pyramid buildings. We ask these Africans and their queens to be with us, to strengthen us, and let us understand building for eternity. We ask those Africans who laid the foundation for high culture, writing, mathematics, philosophy, science, monumental nation building, We ask those Africans whose names you do know, but you don't know them in the sequence and the relationship that you know. You know about the King Tuts. You know about the Nefertitis. You know about the Nefertaris. You know about the Ramses II. But you don't see them as a system of African nation building, community building, building on planet Earth to relate to the universe, a divine understanding of the relationship of the human to the divine. We ask those Africans who understood those deep philosophical concepts to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those Africans in their Great River Valley civilizations who were able to share it with others. They shared it early on with people who became the ancient Hebrews. They shared it early on with people who became the ancient Greeks and the Romans. They shared it early on with people who eventually laid the foundations for Islam. We ask those Africans who were responsible for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Greek civilization to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those Africans who not only shared this culture and spread it around the world, but who also had a devastation, a trial and a tribulation. And into our world came those distractors, the invaders, the northern Praeto-barbarians, a series of invasions over thousands of years. Dr. Chancellor Williams has a book called The Destruction of African Civilization. But in spite of the devastating historical periods, there's always been, in African culture, change, transformation, rebirth, and resurrection. And so in spite of slavery and colonialism, there is a continuous process of change, transformation, rebirth, and resurrection. And you stand as part of it. Essex County College stands as part of it. Newark stands as part of it. And you need to understand its relationship to what we're calling systems analysis, system capability, and systems development. We ask those Africans who survived enslavement, who survived colonialism, and who began to build their world anew, a new paradigm, a new world order. We ask those Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us the vision for the future. And we do this for the African child. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Having been to Africa over 100 times, in the Caribbean, Brazil, and other parts of Latin America, our people have these deep traditions, these celebrations. This is not hocus pocus. This is not voodoo economics. This is not bamboozling. This is acknowledging the bridges that you stand on. This is appreciating the road that you have to travel, that your ancestors traveled before you. And nothing you can do will be of great value and great strength unless you understand these dynamics that I'm trying to refer to you about, and that Dr. Kalfani and your other professors have been relating to you. It's a struggle of enormous proportion, and the key is the war for your mind. There's a war to control and manage you, and the key is through your mind. So while you're going through your classes, select them to give you strength in developing your mind. Don't select them because it's convenient. Don't select them because it fits your time frame. Don't select them because other students told you this is an easy A. The challenge for developing your mind is such that you have to have your plan on how you're going to develop your mind. Because this war against your mind is real. And for African peoples, it's deadly. Because whoever controls the African mind, M-I-N-D, controls the African mind. M-I-N-E. Let me say it again. Whoever controls the African mind, M-I-N-D, controls the African mind, M-I-N-E. And there's no continent on this planet Earth that has been more divinely blessed than the African continent. And every power force that's emerging is attempting to control the wealth of Africa in order to build their systems of global development or regional development or hemispheric development. So these are the great issues that you're going to have to grasp as you go through getting your degrees, mastering what is being put before you, but somehow or other, you've got to get out of the box of a degree and into the world of developing your world and your mind. This is the big break. Not degrees that make me. That's what I'm trying to say. I have all of that. It's good to have them. Even people who don't like me, who hate me, think I'm an idiot, have to call me Dr. Jeffries. And say he doesn't have a degree from Columbia, it's a hoax. Same thing with Barack Obama. The poor man has done everything to be somebody. And the greatest thing he did was to marry a black woman who is somebody. An African woman. Let's give it Michelle Obama. And then systems analysis is at play when you deal with the White House. Well, I don't like Obama. He ain't doing enough for dental care. I don't like Obama. He's not getting enough jobs. How the hell do you expect one black man, half white, to deal with the system that the American government represents? You better be glad that he's surviving, because there are many people who want him out of here. And he's got to hold his breath to hope that he makes it out of here, because Abraham Lincoln didn't make it. John F. Kennedy didn't make it. A number of other people didn't make it. And certainly in our history, we know that Malcolm X did not make it. Dr. Martin Luther King, our King of Peace, did not make it. That when you're dealing with systems of power that want to control your mind in order to control the minds, the wealth of the world, they will do anything, including death and destruction. Witness your brothers and sisters in this world. One great black woman, I guess the name Michelle has some power, because certainly Michelle Obama is powerful. This woman is so powerful that white folks who don't like her say that she needs to cover up her arms. Somehow they can't deal with the sister's arms. She's in good shape, she ain't flabby, and those arms help her carry her babies and do the job that she has to do. But here they are worried about her arms. There's something wrong with that. Knowing that this woman has gone to Princeton University, right down the road here, which trains the leaders to run the world system of white supremacy. She mastered that following her brother. And then after mastering Princeton, she went on to Harvard University, which is the finishing school for white power. And she graduated not Harvard College, she graduated Harvard Law School, which has put more people in power than any other institution. Here's a woman who has graduated from Princeton, Yale, Princeton, and Harvard, and they never say anything about that. They're worried about her hair, they're worried about her arms, and the latest thing when she was at Mandela Madiba's celebration and his transition, they're worried that our friendly president was too friendly with some white woman, and there was a selfie that they sent around the world. And there's Michelle looking and saying, "Hey, Negro, get yourself together now. We're on the world stage, and you can't be slipping and sliding." And so she rightly looked at the brother. You can imagine what the pillow talk is going to be. Yes, you were wrong, and you can't justify it. Well, I got to be friendly with everybody. Yes, but not when you're celebrating one of the greatest forces and spirits that move through this world, and here you are joking around. So you got a drama in the White House that you all need to see as African humanity. Well, I don't like his politics. Forget the politics. Appreciate his babies. Well, what the baby's got to do with it? If you've got a baby in the White House, your youngest daughter, and she speaks Chinese, and she's so well prepared and trained to hit the world running that she met the Chinese president, and she spoke to the Chinese president in Chinese. She looked at him in the eye, one of the greatest men on the planet, head of 2 billion Chinese. And everybody in China knows that a little black girl coming from the sacred womb of Michelle Obama has the strength and the power to look our great leader in the eye and greet him. Do you know how powerful an image that sends to the world? all the negativity that they put out can't counteract that. When the Chinese know, they can't look at their president in the eye. They can't even be in his presence. Sometimes they can't even think about him. And he is a little African spirit in the White House. Not the oldest daughter, the baby. Images are powerful. Whoever controls the images controls. And use the Jeffries pyramidal formula to process this information I'm trying to throw at you. Whoever controls, and the pyramid represents a triangle shape, which represents the formation of the systems analysis that I'm trying to get to you with. Thesis at the corner of the pyramid. Thesis is the foundation of things. You need to organize your thoughts around thesis. But for every knowledge around thesis, there's an opposite. There's an antithesis. So at the foundation of the pyramidal formulation that I'm trying to get you to use is thesis, antithesis. But thesis, antithesis is the law of opposites. It's the interaction of things. And thesis, antithesis produces a what? A synthesis. And you have to master that consciousness of putting in place a thesis, a foundation, information, and relating it to deeper thoughts, including the opposites, and then synthesizing it, breaking it down, and then going to the top of the pyramid or triangle shape and synthesizing. And at the top of it, you have what I call caps. At the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza, they have what they call a capstone. And at the top of your triangle, put a smaller triangle at the top, and that's caps. You need to look at all knowledge, all understanding, and appreciate it in terms of concepts. Concepts, analysis, processes, and systems. That's where I want to take you. You want to look at things in terms of concepts. How do they relate to other things? Concept is the grouping of ideas and knowledge into a relationship. And then once you have the ideas and knowledge into a relationship, you want to be able to take these ideas and analyze them. So C for concepts, A for analysis. And analysis means you look at things from various perspectives. You look at it from the negative, from the positive. You look at it from the positive of the female, of the male. Look at the positive of the gay and the not gay. So analysis means you look at things from various perspectives. I don't want to look at that gay. I know what I want to say. Well, you're not thinking. You're just acting. You're not thinking. Concepts, analysis, and all knowledge involves processes. Processes are the forces affecting ideas and knowledge. Forces, economic, political, social, psychological, cultural, ecological, epistemological forces. So knowledge is not a simple process. It's a deep process that you've got to master. Your courses are just part of the process of getting the degrees, but your mind development involves you understanding concepts, analysis, processes, and most important, all of this links into systems. Everything is systems related. Everything is systems. Well, Dr. Jeffries, you got to explain that a little deeper for me. I don't quite understand. Well, let me, since you're at that stage where your testosterone is kind of be speaking to you kind of loud, let me deal with it in terms of sex. In the beginning was your mother. That's the thesis. And your mother, unfortunately, met your father. That's the antithesis. And your father was a good-looking dude with curly hair, had a maxima, and he bamboozled her. And so there was an interaction of these opposites, the female principle and the male principle. And they connected. And as a result of the connection, there was good sex. But there was more than that. Out of that good sex came a synthesis. And the synthesis is you. So you can understand where I'm going with thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It is you. You want to study you, you're dealing with the concept of CAPS, concept, analysis, processes, and systems. But laws of nature The great forces of the universe have to come into play. It's not just good sex. That's what we focus on, but that's not the reality. There are systems, impact, and processes that take place with sex. And the key, sex is not gratification and pleasure of yourself personally, but the key is producing new life. And new life is formed around laws of the universe that you can't ignore. And so, out of your mother not being able to resist your father, and your father imposing his masculinity on your mother, comes you. But you don't start as no full human. In spite of what conservatives are saying, you in the womb don't start as no full human. You start as one cell. And that one cell meets the laws of the universe in order to make you you. And that one cell, the contribution from your mother, is equal by the contribution of your father. And your mother throws in 23, your father throws in 23, and they synthesize into 46 what? Chromosomes. So you are the product of this project I'm talking about to get you to think in terms of system. But once those 46 are together in one cell, then the other laws of the universe and the other processes have to take place. One of the key ones is halitosis. I was with a family in North Carolina, and when I was running this down to these little babies, 6, 7, and 8, and I mentioned halitosis, one of the little guys, he said, Dr. Jeffries, don't you mean mitosis? And I said, yes, brother. But I threw that out to see whether you all is awake or whether you're half sleeping thinking about your lunch, or whether you're thinking about some other things that you need not to put in your body. But at any rate, we're talking about another great law, the law of mitosis, the splitting of the cell. And that cell process has to go on for you to become human. So you've got to understand these things. In that cell process of 46 is what I call the 3 Ps. In that one cell that begins life with you and those you may be creating life with. The cellular analysis of that one cell takes you back to the past, all of the past going back to the first human. The cellular development of that cell links you to the second P, the present. All of the 6 to 7 billion humans on the planet are related to you through the cellular process. And then the potentials and possibilities for the future is the third P. In that one cell of 46 is your potential for childbearing and rearing and developing a child in the future. So I'm saying you've got to have a deeper understanding of the relationship of knowledge. Most of you don't. Because that cell now has to grow into a mind, a body, and a spirit. Mind, body, and spirit. And then the processes of development have to be clear around those things. If your mind is not properly developed, you become mindless or lack of mental capabilities. If that body is not properly developed, then it can't function with the mind and the rest of you. If the spirit is not developed, then it does not have that harmony and balance which is necessary. I'm not talking about your religious traditions. I'm talking about the balance between mind, body, and spirit. My students began to understand this when I'm teaching 40 years at City College. And so when you say to them, garbage in means what? Garbage out. Garbage out. So if your mind is filled full of garbage that you're watching on the internet, all of that mess that you can now get without any fee on the internet, your mind is going to function with a focus on garbage. If you eat garbage, garbage in means what? Garbage out. Then the nutrients that your body needs, just like the nutrients that your mind needs for full development, is not going to take place. And most of you eat a heavy plate of whiteness. My wife jumped on me last night. You eat too much starch. You're looking at bread and you're looking at the potato salad. And you've been married 49 years. You can't start fighting now. And so I just had to keep my mouth shut. But on the plate, I had my salad bar. I go to Coach House, I get a salad bar, and I always get a plate of color. I don't eat a plate of whiteness like you folks do. Some of you get a whole plate of fried potatoes. You don't even know what process it was frying those potatoes, but you want to make sure that they are tasty for you, so you take some ketchup, and ketchup is not vegetable, and you just dump the ketchup on, and so that's your food. A pile of potatoes with some ketchup. And then some of you prefer white rice. You call it white rice and beans, but usually it's just a plate of rice with a few beans around it. Some of you prefer pizza. God knows what they put into these pizzas. And some of you will go to these takeout joints and don't know what the hell they put in that you've taken out. So I'm saying you need a science of the mind, a science of the body, and a science of the spirit, understanding the laws of nature that link you to the great universe. So as you develop your mind here at Essex, think in terms of the science of learning and mastering the great forces that will help your mind develop. But as you eat, just don't eat because your taste buds are saying, I need some sugar. I need some pepper. Think in terms of nutrients. What is the body going to need? A science of the body. And then certainly spiritually, we've been given a package of spiritual laws and traditions. But we need to think beyond that into what is spirit? What is the relationship to the cosmos? And then you have to have, as you put that pyramid together, you have to have an internal circle, and then linking the points of the pyramid together, an external circle. So you have a concept of internal and external, a concept of micro and macro, a double circle. My wife is an art professor of extraordinary brilliance, and the double circle in many instances represents God, or the consciousness of the divine. But that internal circle represents that you have to have in your process of understanding an ability to go to the most minute part of your existence, which is the cell. The minute particles of the atoms in the cell. You need to have an internal development that takes you into this realm. And then you have to have an external development that takes you out to the cosmos. So that internal circle represents you need to understand internal development, and you have to eat, think, and have a consciousness that relates to that. And then external development means you have to relate to the cosmos. Well, Dr. Jeffries, you're going too high for us, you're going too fast. You've got to bring it down home. You make it, homie, make it clear, make it plain. Your skin. The concept of, in the Diop book, the first 100 pages deals with the African origin of the human family. And one of the key things that he talks about is melanin. Write it down. M-E-L-A-N-I-N. Melanin. Melanin is a key to understanding, and you need to have the understanding in terms of systems. You need to have the understanding in terms of mind, body, and spirit. You need to have the understanding in terms of the minute, the atomic development and particle development in your life and the cosmos. Diop says melanin lets us know that the early humans, in order to live on a sun-drenched planet, had to have melanin. This is a blessing of the Creator and Mother Nature. This blackness, brownness is not a curse. But because your minds are being so programmed and processed, you are I understand clearly. You're born to be winners, but you're programmed to lose, to be losers. This blackness, brownness represents your winning. And most of you look in the mirror and you don't want to be black or brown. One of the big things we have going on now is bleaching. Even the Asian populations want the porcelain look. So a $50 billion industry in China is trying to be as white as porcelain. This color that we have, this epidermal color, is a blessing from the Creator. It allows you to survive in a sun-drenched planet. So that's epidermal melanin. So you have, again, melanin, part of the system of development. You have epidermal, which is the external, and that inner circle you have neuromelanin. Neuromelanin means that the basic and key organs of your body have to have this blackness, this melanin, in order to survive, including the brain, including the eyes, including the reproductive organs. So you grow up in a culture that's praising whiteness, raising whiteness, and you feel inferior because of your black and brownness, and that cripples you in these systems of development that you need to take advantage of. Well, Dr. Jeffries, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to say that you go through life with a massive inferiority complex, and you got to throw that off. You have to understand that you are a manifestation of the divine order of the universe. You're not inferior. Well, the scores, blacks and browns score less than, that doesn't have a damn thing to do with anything. No one really develops their mind more than 10 or 15%. If you develop the techniques to develop your mind, you could outscore anybody. You need to understand these processes. You're caught up in the game. And we got to understand how deep it is. Our black men are key to the universe, but they don't know
it. Say it again.
Black men are key to the universe.
Amen.
But they don't know it.
Amen.
Whoever controls the images controls the self-esteem, the self-respect, and self-development. Again, using that period. Self-esteem. And the other side of it is self-respect. And at the center, at the synthesis, is self-development. Most of us are forced into a culture based upon capitalist principles of making money by any means necessary, based upon a system of white supremacy. So most of us go through life having to fight an inferiority complex. You got to throw that out. This brother, Dr. Shekan Tijep, in his book, A Scientist, he shows that melanin is a key ingredient. Blackness and brownness is the key ingredient, and that's why we know the first people on the planet had to be black and brown, otherwise they couldn't survive. Whiteness comes out of the northern cradle ecology, where people caught in the ice, black people, brown people caught in the ice, who weren't able to get out of it when the great ice age came. They evolved into lesser melanized externally people. But nobody can live without melanin. Even the whitest of a white person has internal melanin in order for his basic organs, major organs, key organs to function. This is the science that you've got to tap into. Master your courses, get your degrees, but develop your humanity. The key is the development of the human family and making your contribution. Each generation has to assess its ability and has to make its contribution to the forward launch of the human family. And so something has happened to the great black man. Here's an example of a monument that's in Senegal now, and it represents African greatness. This is the African greatness that Marcus Garvey was trying to say we needed to be about. The African greatness that Dr. Nkrumah said that we need to be about. But this is an example of a process, of a system of developing great African leaders. In my left hand, I'm holding up the images of the 25th dynasty of the Nile. The Nubian, the Ethiopian, the Kushite dynasty of the Nile. These are the male leaders, but each of these male leaders had powerful queens by their side. This is the dynasty of Pianki, Taharqa, Shabataka. A ruling leadership group. The leaders were trained to rule. They went to school. They had elders. They had lessons to learn. You just didn't become a leader because you looked good. You were very powerful. You had to go through a process of developing your mind, your body, and your spirit. This image also includes the only pharaoh in the biblical tradition. Taharqa, in the Bible is Tahika, but this is the brother who came up from the south in that process of change, transformation, rebirth, and renewal. And he restored the greatness of the Nile Valley. He protected Jerusalem, and that's why he's rewarded with a place in history. But in this institution, unless you're in the African Institute and other places, you're not going to know this history. You're not going to know that these great Africans came out of the Sudan, linked the Sudan up with power, and then moved on to Kemet, to Egypt, and unified and restored throughout the invaders, and restored Africa for another great walk in the sun. Before this dynasty of strong black men ruled, and strong women, you had the 19th and 18th dynasty. That's the dynasty of King Tut, who you know about. But systems analysis has allowed you to relate King Tut to a process of political development, economic and spiritual development. Why do you know King Tut? Because Europeans were mesmerized by the gold mask. This was an insignificant boy king who had no real role in the political process, but everybody knows him. You don't know his uncle, the Pharaoh Akhenaten. But you do know the Pharaoh Akhenaten's wife, Nefertiti. So in the processing of information, so you'll be confused, they let you know about Nefertiti because she came from Mitanni, Turkey, had a lighter skin than most of the Egyptians. And so you know her because they held her up in this world of white supremacy as the symbol of beauty. But the key to these images I'm talking to you about now is the female. And the most important female of this period was Queen T. And how many of you know who Queen T is? So to be in a great institution of higher education and not have this knowledge, we've got to understand where we are and what we're faced with. This is an attempt to recapture an image that will help us develop the system capability to do for self. Marcus Garvey said, do for self. Dr. Nkrumah talked about African control of Africans' wealth. So the president of Senegal created this image of the rise of the black man, holding onto his rock, the black woman, and then holding up to the world, to the divine order of the universe, his child. And that child is not pointing north to Europe, where we usually look to sustenance, not pointing east to the new boys on the block, India and China. That child is pointing to the Western Hemisphere. It is the unity of Africans in the West, in Canada, in America, in the Caribbean, in Central America, in South America, particularly Brazil, is the unity of Africans in the West with the Africans in the continent. That signifies that we are in a period of African Renaissance and rebirth. But the black man needs to rise and take his place in the order of the universe. But that's difficult given the programming. We're born to win, but we're programming to lose. So hundreds of thousands and not millions of black men are in the prison system. That wasn't the case when I was growing up in Newark, New Jersey. Something has happened to suck black people off of the streets, out of the schools, onto the streets, and into the prison system. And so we have to see that as a process. Then we have to see ourselves as culturally neutralized, that we don't see ourselves as great black and brown people. We see ourselves as trying to get over. trying to hustle. So black men who should be the warriors, who should be the leaders, who should be the fathers, are now walking through life all over the planet, not just in America. Go to the Caribbean, Brazil's the same thing, go to Europe, you'll even see European. Young black men are showing the world they're behind and not their mind. What has happened since I grew up, since Amiri Baraka grew up, and I'm dedicating this presentation to Amiri Baraka. What has happened that we could develop our minds and take on the world, and now your generation is showing the world they're behind and not their mind. So the great struggle is for the minds of African peoples, and that's what Garvey knew. So he created images. Whoever controls images controls self-respect, self-esteem, self-respect, and self-development. And if you're going to have true development, then you've got to be able to have a systems analysis that allows you to see things deeper, systems analysis, and then allows you to understand in order to make something happen, you have to put system capabilities in place. So systems analysis and system capabilities are key to where you're going to go with your life and where we're going to go as a people and where we're going to go as a human race. And systems analysis, systems capability leads to systems development. But if you don't have an understanding of those three ingredients that make systems, then you're going to be crippled. And to make a system, you need economics, politics, and culture. Economics is your creative potential. It lets you control your creativity and your productivity. Everything is economically related. Politics is not what politicians do. Politics is what you do to control your universe, what you do to control your economics. Politics is a necessary part of your development. Economics and politics are your foundation. And Nkrumah understood that. So did our other great leaders. Malcolm X, King understood that. Our great women understood that. Even Harriet Tubman certainly understood. Economics, politics, and culture. Economics is your creative productivity. We're very creative. We took a hip-hop process and made it into a tens of billion-dollar industry. However, we don't have an economic plan. We don't have an economic program. So the wealth of your creativity goes to somebody else's systems. Just like we worked this nation, we saved this nation, we built Washington, D.C., we built the Capitol, and we were working for somebody else's system. Just like we're hard-working black people and Latin people today, but we're working for somebody else's system. What we're trying to get over the next 50 years is to project over the next 100 years and 50 years how we can put a system capability so our economics works for us, that our politics serves us, and that culture allows us to be at the head of the human family, because we are the mothers and fathers of the human family. But if you have an annoying inferiority complex imposed upon you in the school system, in the economic system, in the images you see on TV, then you're crippling yourself by absorbing these images. And so African studies, black studies, understanding our heroes, our sheroes, will allow us to liberate ourselves from this devastating process of destroying your potential. How did a prison situation in which there were tens of thousands turn into millions? A black woman named Michelle Alexander, get her book. Michelle Alexander talks about the new Jim Crow. She talks about the system that's now being used to replace industries. There's a prison system that towns and regions fight for their prisons in their community to create jobs for white folks. So who's going to make the prison system work? Black and Latins, what do they call that? Frisk and fresh and frisk, whatever that mess is. Stop and frisk. Creating fodder for the prison system. That's why you have to have a systems analysis to see these things writ large. Marcus Garvey was one of the first to say, economics, you need your economics to work for you. You need your politics to work for you. You need your kings and queens. You need your leadership development. You need culture. You need to understand who and what you are. You're not a slave. You're not inferior. You're not lesser than. Culture tells you what type of economics to do. We don't need predator economics. We need cooperative economics that we care and share. That's the core of the African value system. African value system is the 3 C's as far as I'm concerned. Cooperative, community, you live together. Cooperative, you work together. Collective, you share together. We're growing up in a system where it's me, it's mine, it's mine. The individual focus, unfortunately, cripples us. And you're not an individual. No individual produced you. It was a combination of your mother and father. To raise you was a combination of the village. So the divine order of the universe has made us into a communal, cooperative, and collective entity. And we need to take that and make it into a system. Just let me show you some of the images that I think are important for you. Some people said Dr. J didn't have a degree. I took some of this information and gave it to the African Union so they can understand, yes, there is a PhD, lived 2 years in the Ivory Coast, and this is subnational politics in the Ivory Coast. That is the PhD of Dr. Jeffries. There was a master's, and it has to do with the Senegal economic plan. You've got to have a plan. Your economics, your politics has to be part of a serious action that you plan for yourself, your family, your community. This is the plan of Senegal, the 4-year development plan. And in 1963, when the AU was formed, I got the first African Studies Masters from Columbia, and the continuation of the PhD is the regionalization of West Africa. Even at that time, having been to Africa several times, in Ivory Coast, Senegal, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, I could see that we needed to have a system of African nations. These many nations are not going to make it because their economics would not be strong enough, their politics would not be powerful enough, and the cultural unity that they need would not be there. And so the African Union is now celebrating 50 years. When I did this dissertation in '63, the African Union was formed. At that time, Malcolm X started to move around the world, and he was beginning to say we need to have the African American community linked up with the African community. And so in 1965, he came up with the Organization of African American Unity to complement the Organization of African Unity. The African Organization of African Unity and its follow-up, the African Union, has said black and brown people everywhere need to look at the past 50 years in which we have attempted to rise from our difficulties, and we need to understand the strengths that we have, the weakness that we had, the mistakes that we made in our nation building, in our forming groups and organizations, and also adopting policies. And then we have to project the next 50 years. You have to have a plan to go into the future. And so they're not only asking us to look and assess what has happened to us here in Newark and in America and the Caribbean, but they want us to project where do we want to go? What type of economics and politics do we want to have in the future? What type of capabilities do we have to put it in place? And so in order to do that, you have to break this inferiority mentality that has been imposed upon you so that you'll be free to project where we need to go. Dr. Diop, in his great work, has talked about a blueprint for our future. There's a book called Black Africa. Our great brother from Mississippi, who went to Morehouse and then came to New York, Amos Wilson, Dr. Amos Wilson, has a book called A Blueprint for Black Power. Dr. Nkrumah has a host of books. Neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. And so you have to tap into some serious knowledge of brothers who lived it and sisters who lived it, and now it's available for you. You've got to go beyond your course outline. You have to have a serious development outside of the classroom. That may be your most important development as you get into things that are kept from you. People don't want us to understand that African people are not human. That's what our founding fathers were about. Let me end it with this. Our great Thomas Jefferson talked about it. All men are created equal, endowed with their creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of Negroes. Life, liberty, and happiness. This nation was founded, every one of the founding fathers was slave owners. So it was not founded on freedom, justice, and equality. It was founded on slavery, enslavement of African peoples. It was founded on injustice, the ripping off of the Native Americans and the exploitation of Africans. So we have to flip the script and get it in balance. You've been given a string of lies about Washington and Jefferson and Monroe and Adams, and even our great honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln wasn't interested in freeing any Africans. He was interested in saving this nation. And he said, if I can keep everybody enslaved and still save the nation, that's where my heart is. So if you're talking about emancipate, it's not Abraham Lincoln, it's Frederick Douglass, it's Harriet Tubman, it's your great-grandparents and mine. So that's why we got to know this history for ourselves. It's not being anti-anybody, it's being correct, it's being truthful. And then, let me just look through it. We got to have institutions, organizations. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was talking about. This is the Great Pillared Temple in Kemet. This is not the Great Pillared Temple in Paris or London or in New York or Washington, D.C. or in Greece. Those pillared temples were copied from the African Pillared Temple. This is where the leadership was trained. The men were trained. And there was a similar temple to train the women. Learning was a divine process of making you part of the divine order of the universe. And so all of that has been taken from us. When you see a pillared temple, I went to a pillared temple at Columbia University, the library, and each of the columns had a Greek name at the top. In this pillared temple, the real deal that inspired the Greek temple, that was built by Queen T and her husband, in this pillared temple, each one of the pillars in the Great Hall represent a moral and ethical principle, the great principles of Ma'at, the 42 principles of Ma'at. So even your architecture speaks to the divine order of the universe. And then let me... Yes, let me end it with paying homage to our sisters, certainly my mother, but this is my wife. She started the African Odyssey. She was born and raised in Harlem, but she went to Africa in 1960. I followed her in the same program in 1961. We met, and then she started with other young sisters working on us, and 10 of us got married within several months in 1964. And Rosalind is one of the great scholars, and hopefully she'll be able to come down to Essex and also be able to spread some of the knowledge and some of the understanding. We are an African people that are part of the rise of the human family, and life is about change, transformation, and resurrection and rebirth. So I want to congratulate those of you who are here in this process of learning. But go out of the box. Read the books. Don't just go on the internet. Go beyond your classes. Use your classes as a key to get you started. And then, since I'm born and raised in Newark, I got my property here, my grandfather's house, my family's here all up and down Newark and all in the suburbs. I'm here to be a part of your growth and development.
Let's give Dr. Jeffries another round of applause, please. And I want to thank all of you for coming and supporting the efforts of the Africana Institute and of Essex County College. We are definitely going to be having this conference here. We've got some other things that are going to be coming up. That we'll send some announcements out for you that are coming up in March and even in February. We have one more thing that we're going to do. But there's other organizations here on campus who are doing things. The Wise Women's Center, the Africana Institute, the Urban Issues Institute. Make sure that you, as Dr. Jeffries suggested, step outside of your classroom mind and go to all these other important things so that you can continue your education on a grand level. Thank you again. I want to thank all my help from my staff, Jaja Shakur, Mr. Baldwin, and Eddie, and all the other staff, and everybody else for attending. Thank you again.